Hey everybody, this is the final of one of the Gundams I'm doing for the BanDai build. I completely airbrushed it and clear coated it. Spent all afternoon yesterday getting everything done. I figured once I had the airbrush out, I might as well get the whole thing done. So I don't like dragging it all out. I don't have a specific spot just for my airbrushing, so I do it right on the bench where I do everything else. So I gotta move everything in and out. Maybe one day I'll redesign this room and have its own spot, make it a little bit easier. But I decided to make sure I got everything done all one day. That way I can either work on the other build or work on one of the cars that I have started not too long ago. This kit went together very well. I first put it all together, and then I took it apart and only did glue together parts that needed to be glued together. They were kind of falling apart. His arms were pretty flimsy and kind of wanted to fall apart. The joints that actually went in there kind of slid around a little bit too much for my liking. So I actually glued those down in there, and a few pieces of the arms I glued all together. His helmet I glued two halves together and the inner piece, so that way on the sides I can hide the seam. That actually turned out really well. The seam went completely gone. I used some of that green stuff filler. This stuff, Squadron products. I really like this stuff. I like it a lot better than the Tamiya. It dries a little bit better, easier to sand. It's got a little bit more of a texture to it. The Tamiya seems a little hard to sand in my opinion, but that's just me. All the paints I used the standard craft paints. So all the gray metallics. I would use these paints like that, the folk art, and then the deco art. I have more luck with the folk art over the deco art. When I was airbrushing, one of the two became kind of a rubbery material, and I think it was the deco art. So I mix those with alcohol. A lot of people have their special recipes they like to do. I just mix it with alcohol. And then I cleared it over with a Rust-Oleum 2X gloss clear. And the nice thing about this kit is I didn't have to spend tons of time on detail. So I didn't really have to worry too much about it. There is some stickers that I only used one stick, I guess I should say. And that is his eyes. I did stick those down and I sprayed clear over top of them to give them a sealed in surface. Makes it kind of have the same look as the rest of the paints and everything like that. After I airbrushed, I also did a wash to highlight the panel lines and also give some shadow on some of the deep areas. The two on his feet, the clear kind of ran it a little bit. I guess it was a little too thick, but don't look too bad. The white, I don't know if you guys can see any sparkles in it, but it is a white but mixed with that silver, and the majority of it is the silver and a little hint of white. And in person it kind of looks like it's got a candy coat on it, it really looks cool, but I do not think it's capturing any of the pictures I've taken so far, so hopefully you guys can see it. But in person it really goes well, and that kind of ties it in with the red and the blue, since the blue and the red are metallic. That way the white's not just a plain white. the scars on his face, kind of what they represent. The two little red lines, as you can see there, I actually hand painted those with that alcohol base, and also I tried masking those off and painting them with the airbrush, and found out that it's just better to hand brush. So on his base or his waist, those two spots, I just brush painted those. Ended up working fine. The feet I actually airbrushed because those pieces were separate at the time. And you can see there's a little bit of blue on the tips of the rockets. And the gold for the helmet, and I got gold on a couple of guns. So there's gold on the side. When I was airbrushing it, it almost had a chameleon act where I could still see the primer one way, and then as soon as I moved it I can see the gold. So that metal flake only wanted to go one way, so I had to really give it quite a few coats. And the gold in his chest grill piece. So this took me like 3 nights to do, so it's not too bad. It's not a big kit, size of your hand, but if you put a little bit of time and airbrushing in it, they really turn out pretty cool. Really fun to put in between building any other models, and that's small enough where you can just sit on a shelf and have them stare at you. To give a representation of the scale, I got some 144 scale, 144 scale Leos that I did a little while ago. So that gives a little bit of an idea how big he is. So, but I think it would actually look pretty cool with him by one of the egg. I put him with the same shelf as the egg planes that I got once they're done. See if I can get some detail views. I did some shadowing, or some washes on the skull. The skull is the same color white, but then when I did the nice full washes on it, I was able to make it look a little bit different. But this was a pretty fun kit. I don't want to spend too much time on it, rambling on about the details, because there's not a whole lot to it. But it was a lot of fun. The other kit, I'm probably just going to put it together and actually have it sitting on the side. The nice thing about these are you can put them together, have them sitting on your shelf, and then one day you want to get brave enough to airbrush them, you still can take them apart and do that, and wash them up and put some primer down and airbrush them. But you get a nice, nice professional look by just airbrushing some color on them. Really improves it. It gets rid of that plastic look really quick. But like I said, the airbrushing was one night. It was actually kind of a long night. Kind of tired today from going to bed late that night. But got it all put together. Cleared it today when I got off of work, and was super careful with it. I didn't douse it in clear. I didn't want it to be a perfect clear coat, since he is a fighting robot. And a little bit of weathering I did is probably good enough for that. I don't want to over weather it. So, alright guys, can't wait to see all your builds. I will update you on the other one. It'll probably just be me opening the box video and doing a time lapse while I build it and doing a final review. So, until next time, see you again.